Alright, so this is the introduction video to how to buy a computer for graphic design. It is a rather long video, there's no doubt about it. There's a lot of stuff to cover. One of the things I will do as an intro is say that whatever you do, you want to have a high return on investment for anything that you do when it comes down to this. You basically want to grow any business. Okay, that's common knowledge. If you start out 100% into it and just buy the best, you might not see a high return on investment. You might not, you bought the goods, but basically it takes 2 to 3 years before you see any kind of return from that. Start out slower, in my humble opinion. That's what I've always done with my businesses. Is in the long run, you can get into better markets that way. You can get into better niche markets because you found your niche market that way. You might not develop or find a niche market jumping right in with a high dollar amount because you're just too overwhelmed by debt, to be honest with you. And yeah, that's my recommendation. Start slow. Okay, that's very common. And then let's get into the video on the 4 different paths that I start developing in the video and how to look at each path a little differently. Alright, so you need a computer. You graduated, or maybe you're getting into graphic design or advertisement and you want to start making ads for your business, or as a student you want to have a computer to do this as a freelancer, or have something to go off to college with, and a good computer. What is that? So I've kind of highlighted 4 things that, or 4 different paths here. Okay. Oops, not 43, but 4. Oops. So 1, I have a lot of money. Like maybe your parents are rich, maybe you're rich, maybe your business is very well off and they just want to just get started. This route right here is the easy route, but the problem with the easy route is you don't learn a lot. Okay, so I have a saying that is I've always used in a classroom: learn to kill with a butter knife, not a sword. Okay, if you train a ninja to kill with a butter knife, you will have one badass ninja. But if you start getting into the fact that you hand this ninja a sword automatically, they don't have a really good route of learning. You know what I mean? They just go completely into the requirement to always have the sword. The other one, they could live off the land pretty easy. So with a lot of money comes the fact that you might not be learning a whole lot here. And that is kind of important in the long run. At the beginning, you might seem easy, you're just making money, blah, 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 but this doesn't allow you to flow into new products as much, and new avenues, or have new ideas come up because you're kind of like struggling a little bit. So struggle is good, in my humble opinion. Okay, so easy route. Cool. I have no money. Okay, so I'm going to put a pro is, and I come from a very poor background, but I'm not now, but you learn a lot. We'll call it street smart, maybe. Okay. Con. There's a learning curve. But that is not a bad thing. So learning curve time. We'll say time is needed. And that's not a thing either. This cultivates patience. Okay. Lastly, I have a computer already. Good. You know, I like, again, I would just mirror this down here. Easy route, you already have a computer. We'll put fast computer. And lastly, I have a computer already, but it's slow. So we're going to mirror this over. Now, why am I doing this? Because I want you to kind of, it's not important that you take the positive, but sometimes people think they're stuck when it comes down to it. And, you know, they give up on a passion of some nature. So I don't want you to do that. I want you to look at it like, wow, you know, I mean, I do have very little money, but I'm going to learn a whole lot from this. Okay? And I would take this artist every day of the week versus this artist. I will hire this artist. I will probably see this artist coming. This one will grow a business. This one will burn out. They will just like instantly get into it, and then they're like, wasn't me. That's what I see all the time. So let's go into what would be this person's computer. Okay, and then we'll look at what this person's computer might look like, and what this one needs, and this one needs. And I think that would cover just about everything as far as, you know, the avenue of computers and which one to buy. All right, so the first one we're going to cover is, you know, I have a lot of capital. All right, so we'll know that the software for that person is going to be Adobe, okay? Equals Adobe. And then I would say the computer is going to be a Mac. And this will make it so you can have very little skill, but just get up and going. Okay, there's still going to be some learning, but you're going to be able to instantly have ads for your business. Your return on investment is going to be very low. Okay, so return on investment means I buy something and I can instantly make money from it. So the ROI from this is going to be low on it, but it'll be an easy path. It might make you money in the long run because you're driving more customers to your business. Who knows? Okay, so we'll go to Google and type in the magical phrase Adobe computer specs. And then one of the top packets, and we'll do this the top tier because we want this computer to have a generational thing. It has to last like maybe, we'll put a goal 8 to 10 years, okay? So we're going to go After Effects because that is the top tier packet in Adobe, the one that takes up the most system resources. So if we mirror it to that, when the other Adobe products roll out, we have now a computer that's strong for a while. Okay, we do not go to anything but Adobe for these specs. We also check for this date right here. Cool. So what is required for that? Well, we need 16 gigs RAM, GPU of 2 gig or more, and not very much hard drive space. We need a multi-core processor. And for the Mac, you can see that it's going to be the same, 16 gigs RAM. Yep. Cool. Which is odd, the hard drive space they've recommended less for Windows. I would say it would need more for Windows than Mac, but that's okay. We're going to go way beyond the 6 gig mark. Cool. So now, you see that route I took though. The route is look what the highest software packet in that suite and then go shopping. Don't go shopping without that information, because that way this video carries on throughout the generations. It could never get old, right? Okay, so google.com, Apple Computer. Just going to go to apple.com. All right, let's talk about the things that I find important with graphic design is mobility, okay? So if I have to show a client something, I need to take my computer somewhere. I need to almost take it to a business sometimes. I need to be able to work in different locations. That's important. I got to take it to a meeting all the time. I got to have that mobility. Okay, so that's very important with graphic design, mobility. Stationary, if you live maybe out in the middle of nowhere and you're working from home, okay? So it might save you a little bit of money if that was the case. If you're at a station, you never deal with anybody other than the internet, and then you have your clients coming to you via the internet, maybe not so important to have mobility. So we're going to go mobility. I love this thing. See this graphic? You can like wheel over it and it opens. Wow, that's so nice. Okay, let's go down, 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 down. Yes, all these interactive ads. They have to really sell you on the product in order to get the price. Okay, let's go down, down, down. Shop. There we go. All right. Now, we are currently in i7, i8 core transition. Okay? So an Intel processor, we used to be an i5 to i7, but now it's i7 to i8. So what we want to look at is this I number. Okay, that's the multi-core processor. Currently, you have to just look at what multi-core processor means and then go from there. We're going to shoot for an i9 because we want this computer to last for 8 to 10 years. So let's see if this one meets our other requirements. It has 16 gigs of RAM, just like we spec'd out. 16 gigs of RAM, yep. It has 1 terabyte of solid state. This is actually only required 6 of free space. So 1 terabyte would be sufficient. And what we need to do is kind of look at some of the other specs in here, because it's not showing. Here we go. 4 gigs of video RAM. So we are only needing 2 gigs of video RAM. Good. The only thing that is going to come into contact every once in a while is like your storage cannot be upgraded on these. So I would almost shoot for a little extra storage, because I know that stuff cannot be upgraded. This is hard to upgrade too. So if you do have the money, like I would almost go 32, and then we're going to bump up the storage. All right, so $3,000, give or take. Through, and we'll like bump up the storage or the memory. All right, sweet. So you have a lot of capital. You're going to get a Mac computer. Very slowly, these are the specs I would jump into, correlating to what we spec'd out. And anything extra would be just you wanting that. Advantages of having more video RAM would be something if you got into video. Okay, so video processing takes a little bit more RAM that way. You have a 4.8 and 5. You can see these two. I would say that this one is actually pretty sufficient for right now. This is going to last you a while. Cool. Let's move on to I have no money. What's that look like? All right, so the next path is I have no money. Okay, that one right there is not a hard route. So you do need to spend a little bit of money in order to make money. Okay? You cannot buy time. Okay, that's an impossible thing. So if this is the case, you should probably start out with what you can do. Okay, what can I do right now in order to start? Doesn't mean to me I need to make money. It just means I need to start. So that might be just speccing out a computer. You know what I mean? That's a good start. In this case, right here, I would say either a used computer, and we're going to go two different paths with this. There's one, the strongest, and I'll get into why. Open source software versus Adobe software. In open source, what we're going to have is a path that's kind of a little bit of struggle, but in the long run it is free. So you're not spending anything on that software. And Adobe is going to be, for a student, it's going to be $20 a month. In commercial, it's going to be $50 a month. Alright, and the only difference between the commercial and non-commercial is if you're a student, this is your route. You're not making money from anything. You're actually just learning. Everything that you do is nonprofit. Everything that you do is just benefiting your own portfolio. It's not to generate funds. This one, I'm a business. I have to abide by the commercial law. So you have to use the commercial software. That's the difference between the two. If you're making a profit versus not making a profit. I would almost argue that you're still making a profit here because you're still generating pieces for your portfolio, and that in the long run will enter into a profit bracket. Okay, sweet. So now let's talk about this. Return on investment, because you can't argue stuff, when you look at that. So free software equals a high return on investment. I can instantly start out making things. The client will never know. If I use Adobe or not use Adobe. They only know the end product. Now, if you're a student, you'll probably have a teacher, and that teacher is going to be biased towards Adobe, probably, maybe, I don't know. And then that would be something that you're going to have to work out with your school that you're working with for that one. Again, if you are generating the same amount or the same quality, I would say that this won't be an issue. If you can show an instructor that you generated a high return on investment image with no capital down, and you explain that to them, versus I paid $20 a month or $50 a month, I think that instructor is going to understand what is going on. Okay, so challenge your instructor, please, and challenge whoever is, like saying that this is not good. It's good for them. Challenge is good. All right, so Adobe software, it's a good route too. It's industry standard. You can get started right away. The quality is right up there. There's lots of learning built into the software. And the other thing I would say is, like, it always gets updated by the same company. Always. Where open source is always updated, and it's kind of weird how it gets updated. It's updated, but it's updated based upon users updating the software. So users can actually produce better software because they're using the software, they're giving feedback, and they start developing plugins. It's like computer programmers get together, use the software, and then start constantly making new updates. That's their passion. Adobe is a company. They're going to be out for profit. Their passion is that. So their software is going to be always updated. The thing I've noticed with Adobe is, let's say I was not producing something in that month. I was not doing any graphic design. I would still have to get the $19 a month around for that, or the $50 a month around for that. So in your downtime, when you're not doing advertisement, you're still going to end up paying this. It's subscription based now. Has been for a long time. Okay. Now we have two sub routes now, right? We have, what computer would this person need, and what computer would this person need? I can only give you the information. You can do with whatever you want. So let's look at what is the top tier open source software and what does it run. Alright, so let's go to open source software. Free, I have no money. Okay? Actually, I've kind of put together something in the next video on what that really looks like. Like here is, an open source computer. This is just an emulator of it, and I show you how to install the software and everything else, and what software is compatible or the same as Adobe. Just so you can get an idea what that looks like too. Okay? So what we're looking at is the highest tier packet. What is the Adobe After Effects of open source software? I would say that is Blender. Okay, Blender is sometimes a beast when it comes down to it. That's the only high tier software I can think of. So you might not even use Blender, but again, you might not use After Effects. It's the highest tier of system resources. Again, always just go directly towards the company, Blender, blender.org. Let's shoot for optimal, which is pretty high actually. 32 gigs of RAM is pretty huge. So we're going to back that down just a little bit to recommended. I use Blender all the time. I would never say that I have ever needed 32 gigs of RAM to run that program. So let's go a quad core processor, 16 gigs RAM. Let's get out of that and back into here. And we can clean this document up later. This is how you take notes. And we already have the specs for Adobe up here. So we're just going to mirror that one down here. Cool. So how about we get a used computer? What's that look like? With 16 gigs RAM and this 64 quad core means i7 and above. Now, I would say, you know, take advantage of things, street smart wise. You know, like I do eBay a lot. I do Craigslist a lot. I look locally for things. I put word out for things. I use Craigslist a lot. Just as long as you know what you're getting into, it's not bad. You are going to run into a few things when it comes down to like Craigslist. Like you have to know that the computer is, you know, pretty good still. And now you just have to know the magical one, i7. Okay, laptop i7. And by watching the previous video, you can get an idea where that is. So, and just glance at prices. Don't shop yet. So I'm seeing everything from 800 to 1,000. Okay, cool. Once you have those specs, you can instantly kind of look at this right here, and bam, you know, you can see what you're trying to get. You can always sell this or use it later for something else too. You know, that's another thing, is don't think about getting this computer and using it for 20 odd years. This might be your just growing computer. It might be like used for a year, and then you can use the profit to get something better. Stay away from Hong Kong. Yeah, so eBay seems to be some comparable prices. There's no doubt about it. Like here's one for 300 bucks. And I would just, you know, make sure you're reading feedback. If you were to get a new one, you know, what's that like? Again, probably Newegg would be a good one. Newegg.com. So again, you're going into the range of 800 to 1,000. Just remember, look at the specs, just like the last video. Okay, now let's look at these two compared to each other. 16 gigs VRAM, 16 gigs RAM. Now you notice that these are pretty much close to each other. That means, let's say I get this computer to run open source software, I could always grow into Adobe. Okay. I would grow your computer first and then grow to Adobe though. So use these specs to look at a computer. Used, I recommend used, I really do, just to start out. Something that you may already have too. Maybe you're have one of these laying around. Because in the next video I'm going to show you how to load an OS for open source software. Alright, now these two I think got taken care of, so let's cover these. Alright, I have a computer that's fast already. Okay? Easy route, learned very little, but still you're getting right up to go. So this one's got pretty high return on investment. You already have the computer. You want to utilize something you already have is always good. So now you just have to ask yourself, do you want to mirror these two problems right here? So the problem is open source versus Adobe. Okay? Do you want to use what you have and continue the route of this? Okay? Or pay $19 to $50 a month for Adobe. So this got taken care of already. Now you just have to see what your computer is already capable of. You know, like on a Mac, for example, if you just go up to the system or the Apple menu about this Mac, you'll see that this is an i7 3.5 gigahertz with 16 gigs RAM. And on a PC, I can't show you that, but that's under control panel in on your computer. What I would recommend is maybe try this route first because it's free. You can see if these applications that I'll show you work, and if they do work, then I would spend the money on that. Okay? And this is a fast computer, so we already know that it'll handle both of them. If it's a slow computer, well, then I would definitely go open source. I would go open source with a new OS. And that's this is probably this one and this one is your worst case scenario, best case scenario. So that's why I did the next video, to cover both of those. So you have a slow computer and you want to basically run graphic design software on it. Definitely open source, and make sure that stuff runs first before you go spending any money on Adobe. Alright, so let me pretty this document up, kind of do an end cap on it, and then we'll move on to the next video, where I'll show you how to, or what resources available to you as far as loading a new OS on a really slow laptop and how to get started. Alright, so I condensed the notes down to this document that I'll share with you, and I'll just kind of briefly go over this. Basically, if you have a lot of money, you got an easy route, kind of a low learning curve for graphic design, you can get started right away. Con, you've learned very little because of this. You have a very low return of investment, but you are maybe already don't need the return on investment because you have a lot of money. You have the choice of a Mac or PC, and I showed you in the video on how to spec that out what you needed. So make sure that you're watching the video to spec out whatever is current with Adobe, and then buy the hardware. Okay? You have no money or low amount to get started. It's a hard route, but it has a high learning curve. but it has also a very high return on investment, because anything that you do, no matter what it is, if you're learning, if you're doing anything, it's always returning a profit. You just might not see it as funds right away, but because of this, you're going to be higher on this in the long run. Okay, very high return on investment. I would almost argue that you're going to be a savvy artist because of this too. Con, it will take time to learn. So when you look at this route, you're also looking at, you're going to be an IT person also. In other words, you can repair all your own stuff. You can build your own computer. You can do everything else. So I don't see it as a con, but in the long run, because you have no money, you're probably going to be more savvy. You're probably going to be the one person that has the computer and has to repair it themselves. They're going to have to reload operating system every once in a while. You're going to be able to do that. Where this person, if it breaks, they're going to have somebody else fix it, maybe. I don't know. And these two are just mirrored of these, really, but still covered. I have a fast computer already. Easy route, high return on investment, because I already have this, and it depends if you run open source or non. Here's my recommendation. I would run open source to try it out, grow your business, and then buy Adobe if needed, even if you have a lot of money. And this one is, I have a very slow computer. Again, run open source software, see if it runs on the computer. If it does, then invest in Adobe. Adobe does have trial software too. You might want to take advantage of that. But yeah. Cool. All right. Now that we've seen this, let's look at the next video where I show you how to, load an operating system. I'm going to give you some videos and some stuff to make that happen. All right. So enjoy and have a good one.